Well, hello, everyone. I think we are live.
I believe we are.
Yes, we are. Okay, great. Man, one of the challenges, I think we have more people joining in, of the challenges of the new thing. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Good morning still, somewhere if you're so far off. Welcome to the Insider and Appsflyer event. This is going to be more on its first-party data, the solution to remarketing in the new privacy world. Today we have a great set of panel and as well as presentations that we're going to do. Let me start off by introducing the people who will be involved today. We have Jason from Insider, who is the UK Commercials Director, as well as we have Piyush from Product Madness, who is the Senior Growth Manager as well. So before we start off, I wanted to also introduce myself, but I will be doing a presentation around remarketing, and probably I'll just introduce myself on that time. Just before some of the house rules. If you have any questions at any point of time, there is a questions tab on there. Please, I encourage everyone for any questions. Please don't hold back. This is the best time to actually raise any questions you have around us. Please print over there. We will come back to it once our presentations are done, and we will be answering them. If you want to chat about it, if you want to know, we are always there. We're more than happy to share our details at the end of the presentation as well. So if you want to take it offline, that's also fine, but encourage more questions coming around from here. Speaking about that, we will be starting off the presentations by now, and I'll be starting with myself. Just bear a moment. I hope everybody is able to see the screen. Perfect. So welcome everyone again. I hope you guys are staying warm and staying nice. I'm definitely happy that I'm not outside right now with all the rain pouring down in London. But today it's going to be about, I'm going to quickly say about app remarketing and then what we are looking to in the future, as well as in the past. So before I break into something, this is an interesting code that came up in 2018. It was like the shaking of apps before being deleted is them being afraid of being deleted. And it's so true, right? So as soon as it was a genius idea by Apple to actually, or everybody else, to ensure that the apps are shaking before you delete it. And that in itself is a testament of how users actually don't want to delete the app. It kind of gives you a psychological advantage. Do you want to delete the app or not? However, we have also seen that there are 95% of the apps are uninstalled in the first 30 days. So if you cross that first 30 days, then there's a higher chance of them being not uninstalled. So having said that, and today we're going to be speaking more about an overview of retargeting and how remarketing is shaping the world of acquisition, as well as digital marketing around mobile. For that, let me quickly introduce myself. Yes, I do have a funny name, and it is a tongue twister. My name is called Yeshas Nakshathri, and I'm a partner development manager at Appsflyer. I have an extensive background in gaming, finance, and attribution. I have been working with most of the technology partners with Appsflyer from 2017, so I'm a kind of an old dog in Appsflyer right now. It's been great to be working with most of the partners. So I've seen firsthand in terms of how not only our partners are shaping up, but also how our clients are also working using attribution and the first-party data and third-party data for the betterment of digital marketing. So just give me a brief introduction about Appsflyer. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be doing a sales pitch, but just for people who don't know what Appsflyer is. So Appsflyer is a global leader in mobile attribution and marketing analytics. We have close to 18 offices worldwide with 1K employees, and that just keeps growing every now and then. Every time I come up with this presentation, it just keeps growing, which is great. We also work with 75K apps and developers across the globe, and also with around 7,000 integrated partners, including Facebook, Google, Twitter, Snap, Insider, and all the different type of technology partners as well, with measuring around 1 trillion events per month. So that's about Appsflyer, and I'm not going to do any more sales pitch around that. So what we are here today is more around the data sample. We want to know, okay, no worries. So in terms of the data sample that we are actually coming across is what we show as 7 billion remarketing conversions. We took around 11 billion non-organic installs for 20K apps who have a minimum of 3K non-organic installs per month. So that was the data sample that we took, and we came up with some interesting data around that study. So firstly, in terms of global, the remarketing adoption has grown by 10% in the past year or so. However, it has remained quite low. So that begs to the factor, have people missed an opportunity to utilize remarketing to the fullest? We're still being in the nascent industry, even though remarketing has been a buzzword from past 2 to 3 years, we still don't see that adoption rate much higher in terms of newer apps and in terms of different also sectors, where we see that there's still so many of our clients and so many of our advertisers who are still skeptical of using remarketing. So we dig them much more deeper, and then we dissect the data across just for Europe right now, which is more familiar to the audience that is present here today. So remarketing is becoming increasingly important for apps that utilize this tactic, right? Around like 22% of them we have seen increase in 2018 to 2020. And now you can see the conversions rate that is actually driving. It's more of a linear curve that is going across, that we have seen across different sections and different type of industries that has been utilizing the conversions. But the best one, which we actually can dive in much more deeper, is e-commerce. And when you look at it on the more global scale, and you look that there is different aspects or different way that the remarketing has grown just for the e-commerce industry. Globally, the average is around 50% in terms of adoption rate, and that has been, whereas globally, all the other ones are around 31%. So e-commerce is definitely leading the sector in terms of how effectively you can retarget. And the response for that is because of direct response campaigns that's been run across by the e-commerce campaigns, e-commerce advertisers, to ensure that they get the users back into the app. They want more and more re-engagements. They want more engagements to be there. The app time and the screen time has been significantly increased by e-commerce by using this technique. So when we looked across in the e-commerce Europe, and then we looked what's clear case of adoption rate, right? So we looked into different, and we break down across different sectors. Now you can see that social has been leading. The shopping, even on that sense, have seen an incremental 21% incremental increase in the average revenue per user across the different cohorts. Now that's a significant increase. When you look into all the other ones that are being utilized, the sample data is much higher for shopping and across e-commerce as well. So this is a great increase that's been said by them. Across, we saw in the Q1 of 2020, this data is only for Q1. And then the common story across all these verticals is that they are seeing a higher increase in incremental. And that states that there is a need for more clear way of doing remarketing. It's not just about remarketing that how we want to do. You need to have a proper strategy, proper set, and also what data you want to use to remarket. Because most of the time, re-engagement is all about, hey, the users who have already paid something or who have been paying for me, let me go after whale hunting or do lookalike audiences. Sometimes that has not worked well, and there should be a clear-cut strategy of who your majority of your users are and where's your average revenue coming from them, and how you can actually try to get such kind of users to re-engage within your platform. That having said that, we are all in a situation where we dress up nice and we are in the boxes to present in a conference. That's the way situation is right now. And that's because of COVID-19. And there has been significant impact across the globe in terms of COVID-19. I am sure that you guys have attended a lot of webinars which have spoken about this. Everybody has emphasized about this, but I want to quickly give a segment about what is happening. So the one is that app install ad spend is down. However, it still remains higher than the pre-lockdown days. And that's pretty significant when you're looking into remarketing. Also, the in-app revenue is maintaining strong growth and a strong curve even post-lockdown, which is very significant when you're actually looking into your data and also optimizing your data. However, we're also seeing the gaming install drop continues, and non-gaming is mainly on the flatter side rather than on the downward trend, which is still okay. And 50% of the app categories have posted positive revenue growth from May 2020, and we are seeing that trend to much more pick up higher. In the recent data that we saw, it's going on a much more hockey stick curve, which is great news for everyone, and that's probably because of all the impact that is being done across during the COVID-19. And of course, shopping, finance, and lifestyle apps have seen a great revenue during this lockdown. There's also another significant change which Apple has come in across, and that is the iOS 14. So with iOS 14 and the newer launch, the newer restrictions that's going to come across for all the marketeers, there's a significant big question. How does the retargeting will look in iOS 14? Will that have some major impact? Then your answer is yes, there will be a major impact, especially on the attribution front when the system is whole moving away from IDFA-based attribution or device ID-based attribution to probabilistic modeling, and also SKAD networks, which will provide a different comprehensive attribution solution, but still rely on accuracy of the data and accuracy of providing that attribution to all the marketers as well as the partners. Significance of first-party data also will be limited. However, it will be growing more. More and more advertisers are looking into first-party data rather than third-party data, and how they can utilize the data which is already there, how they can utilize it to ensure that they can harness it in the best way matter. Because even with that first-party data, it will be difficult in terms of audiences, building lookalike audiences because of so many opt-out reasons that we are expecting. So it is a way to come up with more creative strategies to ensure you can harness this. But the great part is that deferred deep linking will be partially impacted. It won't be affected at all. And we have seen that deep linking has been one of the most significant way to target a user and also ensure that they are engaging in a more personalized manner, and which is of the need of the hour right now. So remarketing has been, as I've said, the trends. These are trends which have been growing. The remarketing drives conversions in terms of shopping apps. It has been integral in shopping. However, gaming has been lagging behind, and probably we'll learn about it more when I discuss it with Piyush in the next segments. But across more verticals, the budgets have increased, as we have seen. More and more companies are going towards the digital side of things. So remarketing will be of a significant rise in the coming future. That means a significant rise in the cost as well. And own media remarketing will also fuel a lot of re-engagement if in the significant future, as well as it has shown in the lockdown. So the moral of the story, what is it all about? So end of the day, no app deserves to be deleted. Everybody has a story to tell. Probably it has not been told when you're acquiring the users, and think of it remarketing or retargeting as the best way to convince the user to ensure that they actually give a second shot to the platform that you want, to sell your story again, and to ensure that need that they have, which they thought they did not actually get when they installed the app, it's still there and it can be still fulfilled. And that's what remarketing will be building across to ensure there's a higher retention and a higher growth percentage for everyone. Well, having said that, that's me, Yeshas, and I hope I'll be answering some of the questions right now before moving on to Anything? Well, so no questions as of now. Any questions, please let me know. Great. So on this note, as there are no questions, hopefully I think I was very clear and was engaging. And in this point of time, I'll pass the baton to Jason, who will be speaking more in depth about first-party data and remarketing around that. Jason, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So I'm just going to share my screen, so bear with me 2 seconds. So let's talk about, as I said, first of all, I'm just going to give you a little introduction into who Insider is. Can you all see the screen, first of all? Can we all see the screen?
Yeah, we can.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, great. So let's first of all talk about Insider and Appsflyer, and obviously why we're importantly here today. So I'm going to start off with just a little introduction about Insider for some of you that aren't aware of it. Insider is a sort of kind of AI-empowered sort of machine learning algorithm that drives powerful customer segmentations. So the way we work with Appsflyer is we pass the analytics to us, and we act as the execution layer, and we enhance that data using sort of kind of clever sort of kind of AI machine learning sort of data, so we can really enhance those segmentations. So it's about focusing on the right data with the right message. We then can orchestrate those journeys across the whole journey. So everything across understanding what the person's doing on a mobile app, and then looking to see how they engage on their email provider and sort of stuff there as well, and also their on-site behavior. So we can really build customer journeys and link all that together. So so it's more of a customer-centric journey rather than a channel-centric journey. And the ability built in with Insiders, we can orchestrate across all the channels. That's email, and I'm going to explain how we leverage that, some of the first-party data. We've got some of our clients and stuff on the call as well, people like Marks and Spencer's, that we do successful web push with them as for their abandoned basket channels. So plus quite a few, but we have the ability to really orchestrate and automate those workflows in the messaging channel. So it's about communicating with the customer where they're present. Now, terrible for some reason stretch video photo of me, but most importantly, let's get into why we're here. As we've just been talking about, kind of remarketing after iOS 14. There's a lot of talk around it, a lot of concern around it. How it's all going to affect us. But most importantly, we all know what the IDFA is. It's basically, in short, it's the identifier for advertisers. It's a random identifier used by Apple that allows mobile advertising networks to track users. Now, we're all consumed. We're in a world now of people opting in and opting out of things. Privacy laws are always a massive concern. Getting people to opt in, especially for new customers, is always a challenge. But we all need to look at these things and how we're going to leverage this in the new world. So what's happening now? So first of all, IDFA will no longer be available for any mobile measuring platform. So that's really interesting, and how traditionally we used to operate and how we're going to work in the future. So now users need to give explicit permission to track them. Some people may say, I've worked for people like Google and Facebook sort of in the past, so I'm sort of kind of fully familiar with the sort of kind of technology and how that sort of kind of drives. But we have to be smarter about what we do. What we did in the past, we can't do today, and we can't do tomorrow. Now, what do we look things like? What do we expect? Opt-in rates for these IDFA promotes, are likely to be low. Every app in the new iOS 14. So, having a strategy plan about reviewing your dependency on these permissions and these user identifications, activity tracking and app install and attribution. So we've got to think about, it's great if they opt in, but what if they don't? How can we use it? How can we leverage it? How can we still engage with this particular customer? So what we're going to talk about is what's next, to how can we embrace the first party data that we have, and how can we leverage it to the best of our ability. So without IDFA, marketers can't re-engage users via ad channels on an individual basis. It's just done at an audience level. So how are we going to be sort of re-engaging users using proprietary channels? Channels that you particularly own right now, gives you the freedom to remarket to using individualized experiences. Now, we all knew traditional channels like email in the past. I know email's still a channel now, but All these things, if you get explicit consent for these, you can still carry on and produce this. Now, what we're talking about from the proprietary channels here, so we're talking about traditional email, something we're all familiar with. Explicit consent, opt-in for email, we can still do personalized journeys. Web push, in the example for, and I referred to it with Marks and Spencer's, we're using that as a browser push for abandoned baskets, rather to complement the email abandoned basket service they do. It's engaging with the customer where they're still present on the site. In that experience, and the conversion rates are great, really good. WhatsApp Business, I'm going to go into that in a little bit more detail because there's been some changes around that with things, and how WhatsApp's moving to buy now options and stuff there as well. And obviously Facebook Messenger. So, it's a great challenge, and some of the brands are really engaging as well. And WhatsApp, we've got some really strong brands that are getting some, amazing engagements, or 60-70% on the WhatsApp channel. So these are the proprietary channels that we can go to, explicit consent, engagement strategies, and understanding, back to what I was saying at the start, understanding the whole journey and workflow, which is really, really important on this. I just want to talk about what's next to proprietary channels, and I know I just touched on WhatsApp. So, I know you're all familiar with email and having a strategy for that, for nurture programs and everything else as well. But let's just talk about, for a minute or two, about the new channels, which perhaps sometimes you're not, basically looking at. And this is what channel is a massive growth channel for us, and something a lot of our customers are looking at. So, as I said, with the new enhancements with WhatsApp channel, there's a couple of screenshots here. The add to cart. They are following the tracks of things like, WeChat, which is one of the APAC versions, which, where everything's transacted through this kind of messaging suite, money transfers, communicating, everything else as well. So it's definitely a route I think, WhatsApp are going on. But as we know with WhatsApp, it's predominantly the iOS customers. And it's something that we have pre-agreed templates with WhatsApp, so we can use it as a marketing channel. But it's something I know a few companies really exploring it, and we'd love to sort of kind of take some questions and stuff on that, and how you can utilize it from the brands and sort of stuff there as part of this journey. The next thing I want to talk about, and some of you may or may not be familiar with it, but it's rich communication services, what we call RCS messaging. It's something that's coming to the market next year. I've added this in because it's something that there's been a bit of press around it. There's been, there's been a lot of positive talk around it. But this is Google's version for the Android. That is a combination with iMessenger and WhatsApp. So this is the ability where you can do high resolution photos and video sharing, things like map directions, location sharing, typing indicators. If you're Apple users, you're familiar with that with iMessenger. You're also familiar with that if you're a WhatsApp user as well. But this is Google coming back on the Android customer, and I think this is going to be something, a new really interesting channel that also you'll be communicating with your customers on mobile for over the next couple of years, and it will really sort of kind of drive out. And this is, Android is definitely really catching up here. This is just an interesting topic to certainly sort of kind of look at. And this is just a mock-up as to just what it's going to be looked. As I said, it's not in the market yet, but certainly flights. A lot of airlines are using, for their mobile apps, they're using sort of flight confirmations through WhatsApp and what have you. This is going to be the Android version, so exceptionally exciting for a communication channel in the future. When we talk about what's so special about the first-party data, if we understand the behaviour, we get explicit consent. We can really target with high relevance. We can, with the first-party data that holds high relevance, which compared to other data types, so utilizes behavioural and transactional data. We all expect deep down what our customer view is. We all expect if we're engaging with a brand, we expect them to know, but it's a borderline of not being too creepy. It's to know as long as it benefits me. And we can really sort of do that VIP type service, across all the communication channels, across whether it be in-app, whether it be email, or whether it, be on site and all these different things there as well. So it's kind of really important to have continuity in all your channels, to making sure that you have a consistent message across it. And you can, it minimizes your reliance on cookies. If you're getting explicit consent and people are opting in for these channels, and you have the ability to send through these channels, you're not relying on sort of third-party cookies to consent from there as well. You also can be highly accurate. The data he's using is basically on a one-to-one level or one per segment level. So it can be really super targeted, and that's great because that just drops down bounce rates, that increases conversion rates and sort of stuff there as well. And it's also cost effective. Unlike the third-party data, first-party data is collected at zero cost. It's a permissions-based system. Getting a consumer to opt in. I appreciate it's a little bit of a gamification. What they opt in as a non-loyal customer will be different what they opt in for a loyal customer. But you work it as a series of kind of steps in engagement strategy. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. We've come up with a person, not a real person, Lisa, 26-year-old, living in Manchester. Won't be going out very much because we're in lockdown. she's searching for a new coat. Ultimately, this is her typical journey. She said, sorry, let me go back. So she's, typically sort of +3 channels. A typical sales cycle is 2 weeks. Plus 20 points of contact. Typical search, view something. And all these kind of flows through before she abandons basket. So she's got her normal navigation process of what that looks like when she's looking for a particular item. So let's break this down in a journey. So Lisa gets an email. She does not see the email. Which is typical. Some demographics, some age groups don't really engage strongly on email. She gets an incoming call. She gets distracted. We then push, use a web push back to her to basically drive her back, to click on it, to drive her back to the site. Again, it's a relevancy. It's a particular thing she searched for. It's a coat. We then, she then stops at the traffic lights. So then we then sort of do a Facebook ad because she's on Facebook. So we follow that cookie through and that consent, and then we push back and retarget on that. She makes the purchase. We give the confirmation, everything else as well through the Facebook Messenger. And obviously she's back at the sofa. So, this is a nice, consistent messaging journey using a workflow, an architect to sort of kind of go through to make sure it's consistent messaging, which is always really important. Everybody always gets very frustrated, don't they, when they get that campaign on an email that's different to what they see on site, especially if there's an offer or a discount or product availability and everything else as well. So, it's about connecting the customer across the whole journey, or particular channels which they're in, the most relevant in. In this example, it's got Lisa's looking for the perfect winter coat. She downloads your app 3 weeks ago. So what we're using, first of all, is we're using our technology around in-app messaging to really sort of kind of push back. So we're approaching it as engagement. So yes, it's marketing, but what we're looking to do is we're looking to engage Lisa in a channel we know. She's downloaded something but not bought. So we're really looking to drive a sort of kind of an engagement strategy back to Lisa to say, look, there's a 15% off in your next purchase. Click on it, move forward. She checks the product detail. She clicks the offer. She searches for a coat. She's looking for a sort of kind of fox fur, sort of kind of hood puffer jacket. She basically shoots, but then she gets an incoming call, so she gets distracted. We then sort of kind of fire, where she's looked at a product, we then fire an email to Lisa. Lisa gets an email 3 hours later, with a very sort of simple click on link with a coach and sort of stuff that she was looking for. But she doesn't click on it. So 2 days later, Lisa's on her way to the gym. Again, we do use a web push, suggested web push back to her to remind her to bring her back to the thing that she was engaged with, that she was obviously showing intent, an interest, but she didn't complete. And then, she clicks on the web push and lands on the website, straightforward through. And then she can click on the item that she was looking for. So, and we drive this using sort of kind of on-site personalization. So it's about, the whole journey, so she can come back to the site and carry on from where she left off. So, she clicks on it, but as the lights go green, she crosses the street and gets distracted. We all live in a busy world, and there's a lot of distractions and sort of stuff around us. But 2 hours later, on the way back home, she gets on the bus and starts browsing on Facebook. And again, we resurface that ad. There was an item, she showed interest, she showed intent, and we're pushing her back to convert that. So we're re-advertising that as she goes through from not on the website, but to Facebook. And we're really sort of kind of drive her back forward. So, and then she makes the purchase, which is great. That's the ultimate goal. It's great customer experience and obviously purchase sales. 3 days later, Lisa sat on a couch with her coat, watching her favorite TV show. Obviously very cold. Not a coat, a cat. And as I said, then we retarget. She's on Facebook again, so we're then retargeting with a Facebook Messenger, a basically scarf that will go along with the coat she's particularly bought, and using the recommendations to really drive that personalized experience back. So Lisa journey continues until she comes back and keeps driving backwards and forwards. So I think it's important there to understand each customer is different. Each journey can be different. People engage with different channels at different times. They have preferences for channels. So it's really important to understand, to orchestrate journeys with every eventuality. And the great thing is, everybody's different, but you need to treat them from a customer-centric perspective rather than a channel-centric approach, and think that that everything you do is going to engage. And underestimate that. For Lisa, for example, just doesn't open emails. So keeping doing the same thing with Lisa and keep sending her emails isn't going to work. You have to engage with her with different channels, and you consumers in different channels. So really that's where we're going to go through, and as I said, that's not all you can do with the first party data. So you can really target your in-app users based on their login information, for example, their discount affinity, their opt-in status, their last purchase data, their predictive behaviors like likelihood to purchase. So you can really personalize both your in-app customers as well. So we were talking about other channels, the proprietary channels, but we're also talking about the mobile first platforms out there, like there's some of you on the call. It's about engaging the customer in that channel as well, with relevancy, with where they've got a discount affinity, with the right offers at the right time, and that can all be done through the mobile platform as well. And it's all driving that sort of kind of in-app personalization. The likelihood to purchase, what apps you've installed, the custom events and attributes, the discount affinity. It's all about driving a great customer experience, whether it be an app or whether it be on site or whether it be off site. And that's and that's where we come in, as I said, we're sort of kind of working with Appsflyer. We are the execution layer to the analytics. We solve the issues and sort of stuff there that which across both in the app, but the other channels as well. So it's about having that ability from action, from intent to action. But that's what I really want to go through. There's a couple of examples here, just purely on the mobile. So welcome each visitor with a personalized homepage and slider, which I think is great. Really engaging. We know what they're interested in, on their intent and sort of stuff is. Also for new customers, things like social proof and surveys. If new customers install the app and they haven't built that brand loyalty, they haven't made those purchases with you, you may just want to have to reinforce that slightly with social proof and survey templates to really understand how their experience is, really get the customer engaged, to really make sure you get over those, as you said earlier, those kind of 30 days so they don't install. It's really important to kind of have that engagement strategy to really sort of kind of drive forward. So that's it. So we've got Appsflyer. They're attributing every sort of touch point across the user journey on the both media and proprietary channels, and then we deliver the individualized, commercialized experience based on the in-app behaviors for your users. So we're the execution, and they're the sort of kind of attributing all this kind of data across that. So hopefully that was useful. I'm going to stop sharing sort of stuff now and head back to the screen. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. I think we're all in agreement. Everybody's quite happy, whether from our side, or put them in the chat side. We can take them all at the end on the Q&A side. So thank you very much, and I'll pass you back briefly. So we're now going to have a really interesting conversation around gaming apps. So I will pass you on to Piyush.
Thanks, Jason. It's now my turn to speak, I guess.
Sorry.
No. It was really interesting, Jason. I mean, to be very honest, all the slides were very interesting, and I really liked the part where you covered the user journey rather than talking about retargeting, acquisition, and looking at individual user behavior more, the mode of communications. That was really good. I'll quickly introduce myself, and I'll let Yeshas ask the questions that we plan to. I'm Piyush. I'm a senior growth manager at Product Madness. Product Madness is one of the biggest social gaming companies out there. We operate in social casino category. We are also part of Aristocrat Digital, which has Plarium and Big Fish as part of the sister companies. So Big Fish, Clearing, and Product Madness, all three are part of Astro Guide Digital, and lovely to be here, and thanks for the invitation, guys.
Well, we are so happy that you could join and being so patient to listen to me and Jason blabber for so long. Well, thank you for your introduction. And I mean, I wanted to be a more conversation, and I can quickly get to know, because I have a background in gaming as well, and I can relate to how the current scenario is something which is unprecedented. However, it is something also giving you a great opportunity to engage with users in a much more personal level as well. So I had a few things, thoughts about it. So from your vast experience that you have, and not only this is not just sticking to the gaming side of things, but also from other side of things, how important do you think that it is important to receive data from various partners and coagulate it for optimization and all that? I know it's a pretty basic question, but I think something is more important in this scenario right now.
No, definitely, Yeshas. I mean, things are about to change, obviously, with the S14 introduction. But, till this point in time, obviously, third-party data, specifically the data that we get from attributed partners like Appsflyer and, any other partner that we use, become very sort of important for us. Like, I mean, let's just speak about the MP data that we get, right? I mean, any advertiser would get MP data. We use them for suppression list. We use those data points to pass suppression list to partners. We use the partners or the DSPs on the other side actually use them as sort of a data to build lookalike modeling to create sort of different segments for the advertisers to ultimately bid on. So it becomes very, very important for us to get those data points, and especially in the iOS 14 world, because I mean the bigger topic obviously here apart from remarketing is the new world that we're gonna start operating in, and I'm almost, I mean, even the entire industry is almost convinced that Google is also gonna go the similar route, and we're gonna end up in that situation. The bigger thing is the data that you collect at a click and at a click and impression and an install level are going to become very, very important going forward, because that the shift that is about to come in the industry is going to be from behavioral targeting to contextual targeting. And we had a contextual targeting era. I started back in 2015 at InMobi, on the ad network side, and I've been on both sides of the coin, as on the ad network side as well as on the advertiser side. So I've been sitting on both sides of the table. But when I started, looking at that point in time, the contextual targeting was pretty big, but it was not focused on lifetime revenue or LTV or anything like that. At that point in time, it was purely about getting installs, getting clicks. I remember advertisers willing to pay on clicks. CPC and CPI models used to be there. Then DSPs came in, changed the entire structure. They said that you got to pay on impression, and I'm going to make sure that I'm going to find you the right user. How are you going to find the right user? Is through behavioral targeting, because they started collecting a lot more data points at the user level, right? And they started building all those segments and audience and everything. And they started saying that, for example, I used to work at Uber before this, and I used to lead performance marketing back in India. We used to target those users who are probably, cab aggregators, more prone to travel, and those kind of data points that we used to get from Facebooks and the Googles of the world, right? And from there on, the structure shifted to, again, going back into the contextual targeting world, because behavioral targeting is no longer going to be an option. Now, when you do contextual targeting, you are going to rely very heavily on the install and the click data and the city data and the OS version and OS data that you're going to get from Appsflyer. Now, you can say that ultimately it is still part of the advertising data, but it's still a third-party data. We're going to get it from the MMP. You have to utilize that data in a very specific manner. You have to understand where your users are active, and take those data points and start probably do a more smarter version of contextual targeting. I tend to speak longer. You should just keep on stopping me in between. So
no, this is really great. I mean, it's a very important point that you put across, especially on the contextual targeting and behavioral targeting. And I know the whole world in 2015, 16, even till 17, I think most of them were worried about contextual targeting, and that's not just on ad networks, but also on major self-reporting networks and self-attribution networks as well. So it also leads to an interesting point right now, is in the privacy-centric world that we're going to go through, where everything is going to be, not only before it was GDPR, and now it's going to be on much more higher level. I mean, let's be honest, we are in the cookie world, even the website we work in the industry, and we still say decline all the cookies. So that's human nature. So in that center, how or what is the best way for you to actually enhance the first-party data, especially around behavioral targeting?
Like as much as we love third-party data, the fact remains that third-party data is going to lose sort of its relevance going forward. Like not completely, but the sheen is going to go off because the user level data. Like when I'm saying third-party, I'm talking about the Lotomies and the Blue Skies of the world, where you get those kind of segments from the user. Right, they're going to lose sort of their sheen. So first-party data becomes very, very important. Now you have to start enhancing it, and you have to think about the user journey. Typically what happens, and this is I've seen on the advertiser side a lot, you start operating in silos. You don't think about the user journey, right? I mean, for user, a push notification or an ad on a Facebook are the same thing. Like, I mean, it's just sort of a different sort of communication, right? They don't care if you're showing it on a Facebook board. They don't care if you're showing it on a push notification or whatever. It's still a mode of communication. So I think, again, we're going to go back to the world where we're going to think about the entire user journey, right from the click to going to the app store, to going installing the app, to going to the lobby, in our case, collecting the coins and playing the game, and when exactly that drop off is going to happen, start working on sort of like, I can give you one example that we used to do back at Uber was the churn prediction model, right? We used to predict when the user is going to churn off using our first party data. So that becomes sort of a very important thing. And then we used to use those segments to do retargeting, give them freebies or whatever works in terms of communication, right? And similarly over here, like at Product Madness, we are trying to adapt to the new world on the IS 14 times, in the IS 14 times, and we're trying to build sort of an LTV model with that could give us some data points within 24 hours, because in the new IS 14 world, you're going to have a limited conversion value data, right? So again, we are enhancing our own first party data and sort of using that as a feedback mechanism to reach out to the audience using retargeting mode, or probably have a more precise communication as well at the same time.
Yeah, sure. That's really good to understand. But there's also another point that comes in, is like, it's more on the first party data. It's already data which is already there in Product Madness's database. But how important it is for Product Madness, who, especially around this, the attribution becomes even more challenging. And I think the solutions that probably like how Appsflyer and the whole industry is going towards is probabilistic modeling and a SCAD network and everything. So there's a data that is coming in. It's still considered as a third-party data. Yeah. And then you already have the first-party data. What are some of the practices that you are going to imply, or are you thinking about, or what do you think would be an industry shift around using them for not only for acquisition, but also for retargeting and also for retention post the no IDFA world?
Yeah. In the new world, I'll also start with a new example that we sort of established here at Product Madness, and this was with the help of third party and the first party, right? And this was before IS 14 world. So what we did was we realized that like the data that we get at Appsflyer, and it's somewhat limited in terms of suppression list, because like Appsflyer has sort of a legal foundation with Google and Facebook. Like it's not on you guys, obviously. It's just a legal limitation that you guys have, right? You have to remove the data after a certain amount of time. So we started using the third-party data of Appsflyer, sort of combined it with the first-party data of ourselves, saying that there are additional layers of device IDs that should be suppressed, and we created a holistic list. That was us using third-party and first-party data together. And when we ran our campaigns on those data points using that suppression list, we saw our reinstall percentage decreasing from 15% to 7%. Yeah. So in terms of numbers, that becomes very, very important. Now I've given you an example which is probably not going to be valid in the IS 14 world. So I'm going to move to the world where it's going to be completely devoid of IDFA, right? In that world, I believe, like the data that you are collecting, I see the advertisers moving towards understanding their click and install data very specially, in the sense that, and I'm not talking purely from a gaming standpoint, because gaming, you can still get the audience, installed in the night and probably let them play in the day or something like that. But for example, on e-commerce, for example, on Uber Eats or Deliveroo kind of an app, for example, on Pandora or for Hulu or like OTTs kind of a situation, right? You need to do momentarily targeting. You need to be present in the moment across all the mode of communication that you have. So what you're going to do is you're going to start understanding. You're going to take your click data. You're going to take your impression data. You're going to start collecting those data points and say that like probably my user base is very much active on different apps where I can show them an ad. Let's say on a Thursday from 12 noon to 1 p.m.
Yeah.
Right. And you're going to start advertising on those time slots, or probably most of my users are going to come on Vegas. So even in the IS 14 world, I'm not gonna target all the iOS 14 devices across, let's say, the US. I'm just gonna focus in Vegas, and I'm gonna target all the iOS 14. Yes, I'm gonna waste some of my impressions because suppression is no longer gonna work in that world. But I still would benefit from the CPMs that are gonna go down at the same time, because if you personally ask me, over a period of 5 years, we have seen a shift from contextual to behavioral and now going back to contextual. I also believe the CPMs were inflated during that time. It used to be very low, and then behavioral came and people said that, we are going to give you additional data about that, and I'm going to charge you extra premium for that. And, the CPM sort of inflated. And I believe now the industry is also realizing that, the CPMs are terribly high in some cases, because I work in casino industry and we also have ad bonds, and we know what kind of CPMs we're going to pay. We actually get from the advertisers, because casino users sort of become very, very important as well in the market. And that's behavior sort of, behavior targeting being done. But that becomes very important going forward in the future as well. And I believe the CPMs are also going to go down, and click data, install data becomes very important. And in terms of first party, obviously, the user base, and you will start using your own channels with the help of retargeting at the same time. Retargeting is not going to go away completely.
Yeah,
I believe it's still gonna be. It's not gonna be at an IDFA level, let's say, but like the IPs or the household IDs or whatever extra data layer that you can add on top of any layer that you can get beyond IDFA is gonna become sort of important, and we're gonna continue with that work.
Well, that's a interesting take, to be honest, and I think coming from a gaming, especially from a social casino background, I think it's really important, and it was a really good point. That also leads to my other questions around segmentation and audiences, but I just don't want to say everybody knows segmentation and audiences is important. That's where it is going. So my question around more of that is, in that scenario, LTV is one buzzword which was used a lot, but I don't think so. That was my personal opinion. Again, don't hold me to the sword, but I feel that most of the advertisers do not know how to utilize the best interest of LTV and how to actually make it as a weapon rather than as a disadvantage. You're like, oh, I'm not meeting my target. My ROAS is not, my predicted ROAS is higher than what it should be. So all that is on a very first party data. It's all become on that. But do you think segmentation and audiences with an LTV standpoint raise a better question? Or still do you think a segmentation and audiences on, say, just the user behavior still holds the key when you're doing such audiences?
Well, Yeshas, I can see that you have seen a lot of advertisers complaining about LTV. I can see that from your reaction, right? I mean, I completely agree. Like on the advertiser side, we have not been as proactive as we should have been in terms of, understanding LTV model. Why do we rely on ROAS? And, I've also seen sort of strategies shifting across different companies, different advertisers. The typical journey of any startup is like what? You start with a CPI model. You say, I just want my users. You're willing to run on affiliates. You're willing to run on traffic you don't even know exists, right? Because you want to increase your ranking on Play Store. You want as many organic installs as possible, and you're pushing yourself in terms of money. And then, once you realize you've reached that user base, you realize that, some percentage of it is probably fraud. You start focusing on DAO, daily active users. You start focusing on monthly active users, and then you come to ROAS journey, and then you come to, LTV journey and everything. So that's been a typical graph of any startup out there. It takes time, because once you're starting out, you just want users. You don't care where they're coming from. You're not caring about targeting. So again, the reason I explain this journey is because, at what step of that journey you will take the decision according to that. If there is a startup or who is just starting out today, I don't think they're going to worry about anything. They will be very, very happy with the iOS 14 world where CPMs have become cheap and they're going all out. So the stay and spray strategy, that typically a company has when they're starting out, that's still going to continue. That because the CPMs are going to go cheap, it's going to continue like that. But focus is going to be on the advertisers who are still on an ROAS phase and trying to move into the LTV model, right? I mean, sort of understand their own user behavior. And this is where the first party data comes in very frequently. It would be very, very beneficial for the advertisers to start building LTV model, start building churn prediction model, start building your own, moment, like sort of, how do I say this? Like understand your own user behavior and start predicting the next step or the next behavioral change in the entire user journey, right? So I believe that is going to come in very soon. at least at Product Madness, we have already started on that journey. We are trying to. So, Yeshas, you're not going to see us complaining at the very least, but I completely understand where you're going to come from. And, hopefully in the longer run, the focus is on going to be on the LTV, and it's going to get enhanced with the help of first party data. And hopefully, probably DMPs could also start helping us in that sense. Because you operate in the cookie world, right? I mean, you know that even if a user is going on a particular site, you can still get 200 attributes via DMP, right? And you start enhancing your first party data with the help of DMP, and you start inserting your own users, and you say that, oh, my user is also staying on this side, my user is also going on that side, my user is also using this app. How do I reach out to them? How do I exactly communicate? Because also the fact remains, right? I mean, one major thing that I wanted to point out here was, we tend to over focus on audience and segmentation and less focus on the communication. Communication becomes as important as audience segmentation in the broader perspective. Like, for example, I can give an example from our Uber days, right? I mean, we started we used third-party tool to create an ad where what we're doing is we are using the temperature or the weather in a particular city and sending a communication. So this was us using third-party data, first-party data on first-party audience to send a proper communication. So the communication read, hey, it's a sunny day. You want to go out? Please use Uber. Hey, it's raining. You want to go out? Please use Uber. So sort of using that third-party, intelligence to build sort of a good communication around first-party audience as well. So these sort of things will keep on evolving. I believe, at least for the two companies that I have worked with, Uber and Product Madness, I believe we have had a very good ad tech stack in that sense, and we have had a very good sort of DS team who have helped us in building LTV model, and it's going to continue like that. And I believe at least we have gone ahead. But yeah, I mean, I completely understand where you're coming from, and I believe the shift is going to be on the LTV side very soon with the as-for introduction.
So on ending that note, there's a quick question. Like, do you have any own channels that you're seeing that are increasing in popularity right now? Because the other buzzword which I have been seeing across, or I'm particularly working around in the partnerships, is building a tech stack. Hey, everybody wants to build a tech stack. When in our salespeople, everybody are talking, hey, who are you working with? What are you working with? Example, Appsflyer and Insider work together. If somebody working in, that's your tech stack.
Yeah.
I think that becomes more significant now, because there was one more buzzword that he used, which we did not emphasize, as fraud. So
we need another half an hour to talk about fraud issues, but I think this is the last question. So I mean, I'll answer in the best way possible, because I think we are over time as well. For us here at Product Madness, apart from email and push notification, for example, for us, the big new thing could be Facebook bot. Or sort of creating, because the reason we are also pushing towards that area is because with Facebook bot, your Facebook ID becomes very important. It's not reliant on iOS 14 IDFA changes, whatever is going to happen, right? So whatever is not or less reliant on IDFA, we're going to start using that channel, and that channel is going to sort of become the big buzzword going forward. So for us, because the opt-in rate typically in a push or a Gmail is very less, so you still want another channel, the Facebook bot, Apple bot, whatever, in whatever way we can innovate without IDFA. We're very much happy to start doing that.
So I'm seeing a shift right now. So you're saying that moving forward, there's also a bigger aspect on advertisers looking at cross-channel media buying as well. Do you see that as a shift? Because Facebook bot is not only on the phone, but it's also on the website of things, and then also email marketing is still mostly on the desktop side as well. So do you see a lot of cross-channel happening around media buying stuff?
Oh, for sure. For sure, the cross-channel media buying is going to happen on you. So again, as the bigger emphasis that I want to make again is from a user journey standpoint, right? You have to start understanding. And internally on the advertiser side, the acquisition team needs to start talking to retargeting team, needs to start talking to CRM, so that you're not sending different mode of communication to the user at the same time. We used to have this issue back at Uber, where we used to send a set of audience about UberX, and at the same time, we're talking about another product that is a low-cost product, Uber Moto, to the same audience. Two different products, two extremes are not going to make a lot of sense. Same with case of Amazon. If the user is willing to search shirts, why are you showing them an ad of something like a cricket bat, right? So, those kind of examples, you have to understand at a very broader level. Users don't care where the communications are coming from. And I think everybody on the advertiser side are going to get together, talk about cross-channel impact, talk about how the user journey is going to go ahead, and hopefully we're going to see that shift very soon. And I personally am very happy about it, because we're going to move into a contextual era with a lot more smartness, a lot more innovative ideas as compared to the one where we were before in 2015 and 2016. So yeah, that would be my take.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. I know we are over time, and I really want to thank everyone who actually stayed back. I know this was interesting, and probably I just took it over time because it was really insightful as well. Lastly, I want to thank you, Piyush, again for joining in, giving your valuable time, especially during this time. And Jason, thank you for shedding more light around Insider and Appsflyer. Well, that's it for today, people. And then if you want to hear more, I think we will be sending a recording for you guys to look into it. But thank you all for joining, and hopefully we will be encountering in the future as well. If you have any other questions, please feel to reach out to us outside as well. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.